the sort of effort into this emptying out. You know, it doesn't seem like you can consciously. I'm guessing you might be saying.
Well, there's always there's also always a dialectic here, isn't there? You know that. But Eckhart was stressing this aspect of it is that you should let things happen. We're always trying to affect change. To some extent, we've just got to let things happen. And Jung picked up on this. It's an art of which we know very little. How to just let things happen. There has to be some sort of program. For us, at least we have to really want to be able to let things happen. You know the old saying, people giving spiritual advice, you've got to quit trying. But then you've got to quit trying to quit trying.
So
but then you must stop quitting. You know, it's almost like a Zen aphorism.
So it is a practice to let go of practice.
Yeah, to let go. And this is what Eckhart called poverty of spirit. And actually Jung himself in the Red Book, he says we've got to adopt an attitude of a poverty of spirit, a certain emptiness, to allow ourselves to be filled. And the words he uses, by whatever God wants to work directly in us. So the emptier we are and the cleaner the slate is, the greater our potential for doing great things. I had a client once, I was a counsellor, I don't do much counselling now, but this client ran an art shop for Aboriginal artists in Melbourne. He was having trouble with the artists who supplied him, particularly one guy who was a very good artist, but he didn't care very much and he used to get drunk all the time, and it's only when he needed something. And he talked to me about the attitude of this Aboriginal artist, and he said he had no sense of ownership at all of the work that he did. He had no sense that he was important or talented. He said he was a brilliant artist, you know, these dot sort of things. But he was completely empty of any sense that he might be doing it. It wasn't his. It was as if he was an indistinct channel for this stuff to come through him. So he's totally empty. But it was out of this emptiness that somehow or another he was able to produce remarkable work. And it struck me, with thinking about it, that's sort of the thing that Eckhart was talking about. The more you can empty yourself, the more you will be able to work whatever it is that God wants to work in you. See, this guy, he had no sense that what I'm going to do now is going to be a great work of art and I will own this and everyone will say, what a clever fellow he is. It didn't occur to him. It was either accepted or not accepted. He was indifferent to whether people thought it was a good bit of work or not. So Eckhart's saying the same sort of thing. We should be detached. We should be detached from the result of what it is. It's we do what we can to the best of our ability, working as whatever as God is working in us, and then whatever happens, happens. If it's accepted, it's accepted. If it's not, then it's not. So that's the sort of letting go that Eckhart was trying to talk about.
I see a bit of a parallel in an alcoholic's rock bottom. You know, and they've got to get to that hopeless...
Total
yeah.
hopelessness.
Yeah. Before they can heal.
But there's also a strong parallel with the Buddhist approach of detachment, and you know, this sense that attachment is the cause of suffering within as one of the great noble truths of Buddhism.
Yep. This is why the Buddhist writers, they felt Eckhart was more Buddhist than he seemed to have this connection with the notion of of detachment and being important.
But then one of the sublime examples of detachment is the willingness of Christ to die on the cross. You know, that's the sense that, you know, he doesn't wish to escape, but he wishes to be a vehicle for a message from God.
Yes.
Pretty difficult, of course, for those of us from the Protestant work ethic type of culture, where it's all about outcome, isn't it?
Yes.
You do whatever necessary to get an outcome.
That's right.
You don't want to spend your days drawing in chalk on the pavement in Collins Street.
Yes.
You know, if it's with the intention that it's all going to be washed or swept away at any moment, and still considered to be a worthwhile endeavour.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do we know much about his personal story and his
Eckhart.
history, Eckhart, and how he came
No, we don't know much about him. We haven't even got a tomb for him. They don't even know where he's buried. He had to walk from Cologne to Avignon to fight his charges of heresy, and it seems like he died just before he was declared a heretic, but there's no tomb for him. The story is, he was born in Eastern Germany, and there's a strong tradition that he was born from a noble family, the people who were knights at the time, because he does write a lot about what he calls the nobleman, and he draws a lot of his stories and sermons based on how the nobleman should behave. So we know that much about him, and we know he joined the Dominican order, and he was a great preacher, a really great preacher. People flocked from all around, and he was especially close to the women's movements, the Beguines that I mentioned a little earlier, and the convents of Dominican nuns, and he clearly was influenced by them. You know. But he was a busy lad. He had very significant administrative responsibilities all through the Saxony area. In fact, he had so much to do, it's a wonder he had any time to write all of these extraordinary things that he did too. While he was a mystic and a contemplative, he was very much into the world. He was very concerned with justice. And he'd say to people, look, you might be in the greatest ecstasy, but if you found someone who was hungry, your job was to go out and make a bowl of soup for them. So his big emphasis was on the role in the world.
Of course, Carl Jung was prolific to the extent that most of us could hardly imagine. You know, if you consider what he wrote and look in the Red Book, you know, his artwork and so forth, you know, he was a practicing therapist and so forth, and had times when he was out of it altogether pretty well. You know, to achieve so much in one lifetime, to most of us, is quite extraordinary.
No Netflix. No.
No, I'm wasting time.
No distractions. No Facebook. Anyway,
QA2. Thanks very much. It's just fabulous. You've just been a marvellous and also our discussion. It's given us so much to think about. And I'd like